They won't see you coming. That's the power of silence. The world tells you that to defeat your enemies, you must shout louder, strike harder, stand taller. But the deadliest victories are often won in stillness, in the quiet decisions no one notices until it's too late. You don't need to broadcast your moves. Just make them. While they speak, you listen. While they boast, you build. While they mock, you improve. Power in silence is often misunderstood in a world that celebrates noise. Everywhere we look, people are rewarded for being loud, outspoken, and visible. Social media thrives on instant reactions, bold opinions, and viral declarations. But real power, the kind that changes the course of events, that rewrites destinies, rarely announces itself. It doesn't need to. It builds quietly, steadily, beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to make its presence known. Silence is not weakness, it's restraint. It's the ability to hold your ground without having to prove yourself to anyone. Those who are loudest often seek validation. They need to be seen to feel significant. But those who are truly powerful aren't chasing attention. They're building something deeper, self-mastery. When you're silent, you can observe more. You can think more clearly. You can see people's intentions, their fears, their blind spots. Noise distracts, silence reveals, and in that clarity you find your advantage. Think of those who have made the greatest impact, not in moments of chaos, but in decisive, controlled actions. The most effective leaders, warriors, strategists, and visionaries don't react to every provocation. They measure, they calculate, and when they move, it's with purpose. That's the essence of silent power, deliberate motion born from inner confidence. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't fear judgment. It simply acts when the time is right. In conflict, silence is disarming. Enemies expect resistance. They expect noise. They expect you to defend, to argue, to retaliate. But silence unsettles them. It introduces uncertainty. Are you weak, or are you planning something? Are you afraid, or are you waiting? That unknown becomes your weapon. The absence of a reaction becomes its own kind of strike. You've taken control without lifting a finger. There is also a deep discipline in choosing silence. It takes strength to let others misunderstand you, to walk away from unnecessary battles, to protect your energy. You don't have to engage in every fight to win the war. By staying silent, you preserve your focus. You don't waste your fire on things that don't matter. And in that stillness, you gather power. You train, you learn, you evolve. The people around you may think you've fallen off, that you've faded, but they're not watching the foundation you're laying. They can't see the layers you're building, and that's the point. You're not performing. You're preparing. Eventually, silence turns into surprise. The world looks up, and you've already risen. While they were talking, you were working. While they were distracted, you were sharpening. And now, your results do the talking for you. That's the kind of statement no argument can counter. That's the strike no warning could have prepared them for. True power doesn't need to be heard. It needs to be felt. And the silence before impact is often louder than any roar. When you move without broadcasting your intentions, when you choose presence over performance, when you let your growth speak louder than your words ever could, you don't just take the high ground, you become the ground others must climb. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't sparkle in the moment, and it rarely earns applause. It's repetitive, often thankless, and deeply uncomfortable. But that's exactly why it's a weapon. While others chase motivation, which fades with mood and convenience, discipline is steady. It shows up when no one else does. It doesn't ask how you feel. It demands that you rise regardless. And over time, it builds an edge so sharp that no rival can match it. In a world obsessed with shortcuts and instant gratification, discipline is countercultural. It's the quiet commitment to doing what needs to be done long after the excitement has worn off. Everyone wants the outcome, the reward, the recognition, but few are willing to endure the path. Discipline separates those who wish from those who execute. It's the difference between setting goals and becoming the kind of person who achieves them. Enemies, whether external or internal, don't expect discipline. They expect bursts of energy followed by burnout. They expect big declarations with no follow-through. When you show consistency, when you rise at the same hour, train with the same focus, and pursue your craft with the same intensity day after day, you become something rare. You become dangerous. Predictability in your effort turns you into a force, not because you're the loudest or the most naturally talented, but because you're relentless, and relentlessness wins. Discipline builds in private what becomes unstoppable in public. The hours no one sees, the repetitions no one counts, the sacrifices no one applauds, those are the bricks of unshakable strength. Your enemies might not notice it until it's too late. They might laugh at your routine, underestimate your commitment, or mock your lifestyle. But discipline doesn't flinch. It just continues. It outlasts trends, outpaces noise, and outworks competition. And when the moment comes to perform, there's no panic. There's no doubt. There's only preparation meeting opportunity. There's a reason discipline feels like a weapon. It cuts through excuses. It doesn't negotiate with weakness. It doesn't bend to laziness. It holds a mirror to who you really are, and then forces you to become better. Each time you choose discipline over comfort, you sharpen your mind, you harden your will. You build a version of yourself that doesn't fold under pressure because pressure is part of your daily life. You've trained for it, you've lived in it, so when the real challenges come, you're not intimidated, you're ready. Over time, discipline gives you power that no one can take away. Skills become instinct. Focus becomes natural. Confidence becomes real because it's built on proof, not wishful thinking. And the most powerful part is that it doesn't require talent or luck. It only requires choice made again and again, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, that's when it does its real work. That's when you're forged. Your enemies won't understand it. They'll look for the trick, the secret, the shortcut, but there won't be one. Just days stacked on days of quiet effort. Just thousands of small wins that they never saw, but that you felt. And when the time comes to face them, on the field, in business, in life, you won't need to intimidate. You won't need to talk. You'll just move with the force of someone who's already done the work. Discipline isn't just a habit. It's a weapon, precise, patient, and devastating in the hands of someone who refuses to quit. Emotional control is one of the most underestimated forms of power. In a world where people are quick to react, quick to speak, and quick to explode, the ability to remain calm and composed is a rare and deadly strength. Most people are ruled by their emotions. They let anger dictate their actions, let fear hold them back, let envy cloud their judgment. But when you master your emotions, you become untouchable, not because you don't feel, but because you choose how and when to respond. The greatest traps are emotional ones. When your enemy wants to break you, they don't always use force. They use provocation. They say things to trigger you, to get inside your head, to make you act out of impulse instead of intention. And the moment you lose control, you've already lost. You've shown them your weakness. You've handed them the script. But when you don't flinch, when you don't rise to the bait, when you stare back with stillness instead of fury, you throw off their strategy. Emotional control flips the power dynamic. You go from being the target to becoming the threat. Staying calm under pressure isn't about pretending to be emotionless. It's about channeling emotion rather than being consumed by it. Anger, fear, doubt. Those feelings will always come. The key is to let them visit, not let them lead. You can feel anger and still respond with precision. You can feel fear and still take the step forward. Control doesn't mean suppression. It means direction. It's taking the raw energy of emotion and focusing it like a blade. People often mistake emotional control for coldness or detachment, but in reality, it's the opposite. It takes emotional intelligence to understand what you're feeling. and even more strength to not let that feeling dictate your behavior. When others are shouting, you're listening. When they're reacting, you're thinking. That space between stimulus and response is where your power lies. In that gap, you decide, and decision is where control begins. Enemies expect chaos. They expect conflict. They rely on emotion to do half their work for them. But if they can't shake you, if they can't see what's bothering you, if they can't find a crack in your composure, their frustration becomes their undoing. While they spiral, you remain grounded, and in that stillness, you see things they miss. You spot their desperation, their mistakes, their patterns. Emotional control doesn't just protect you. It gives you clarity, and clarity is lethal in battle. The battlefield isn't always physical. Sometimes it's mental. Sometimes it's a meeting room, a negotiation, a high-stakes decision where one bad emotional reaction could cost everything. That's where emotional control shines, the one who keeps a clear head when others' panic gains the upper hand. The one who can absorb pressure without collapsing becomes the anchor everyone else leans on. You stop reacting like everyone else, and that makes you unpredictable. And in any confrontation, unpredictability is power. Over time, emotional control also builds confidence. When you know you won't be easily shaken, when you trust yourself to respond wisely under fire, you move through life with steadier steps. You don't fear confrontation because you've already mastered the hardest battle, the one within. You become less influenced by others' opinions, less reactive to their provocations, and more focused on what actually matters. Emotional control isn't about becoming robotic. It's about becoming deliberate. It's about choosing strength over impulse, clarity over chaos, purpose over pride. And once you've learned that skill, your enemies can try to push, provoke, or intimidate. But nothing hits harder than a person who simply refuses to be moved. Strategic learning is a quiet, relentless force. It's not about accumulating knowledge for the sake of appearing intelligent. It's about acquiring the right knowledge at the right time for a specific purpose. Most people learn randomly. They consume content with no direction, no filter, no intent. But strategic learners are different. They learn with a goal in mind. Every book, every failure, every observation is part of a larger plan. They aren't trying to be the smartest in the room. They're trying to be the most prepared when it counts. Your enemies often assume that strength lies in brute force or charisma. They rely on instincts, repetition, and confidence. But they rarely study. They rarely analyze their patterns, question their assumptions, or upgrade their thinking. This is where you gain your advantage. While others are reacting, you're anticipating. While they're improvising, you're executing a strategy formed from countless hours of unseen preparation. Learning with intent turns knowledge into a weapon. Strategic learning requires humility. You have to accept that you don't know everything, and you have to be hungry enough to close that gap. It's not about ego, it's about evolution. You don't just absorb information. You question it, apply it, test it in the real world. You learn from mentors, from adversaries, from silence. You read not just to understand, but to deconstruct. You watch your enemies not just to critique, but to decode. What are their strengths, their habits, their blind spots? You study them like a map before a battle. Time is the most valuable resource in strategic learning. You don't waste it on distractions. You curate what you consume. You focus on timeless principles, not trends. You don't chase dopamine. You chase insight, because every lesson you learn becomes part of your arsenal. Every perspective you gain widens your field of vision. And in a confrontation, the one who sees more often wins. Strategy isn't born from luck, it's born from preparation. Learning strategically also means being willing to unlearn. It means recognizing when a belief or method no longer serves your purpose. Most people cling to what's familiar, even when it holds them back. But if you're serious about mastery, you'll constantly refine your thinking. You'll stay adaptable, curious, sharp. You'll seek truth over comfort. That makes you agile in any environment. When circumstances change, you don't panic. You pivot. That flexibility is lethal in a world where so many people are rigid. Strategic learners are never truly off. They see opportunities to grow everywhere, in conversation, in defeat, in observation. They ask better questions. They're not afraid to look foolish in pursuit of a deeper understanding. And because of that, they evolve faster than everyone else. Quietly, they pull ahead. Their growth isn't always visible at first, but it compounds, and by the time others realize the gap, it's already too wide to close. In battle, whether it's business, competition, or personal conflict, the smartest fighter is often the last one standing, not because they're the strongest, but because they saw 10 moves ahead. They prepared for what others didn't even consider. They knew the terrain, they knew the opponent, and they knew themselves. That's what strategic learning delivers: foresight, precision, and control. While your enemies rely on instinct, you rely on insight. While they repeat what's always worked, you upgrade. While they mock the quiet hours you spend in study and reflection, you sharpen the blade they'll never see coming. And when the moment arrives, when execution meets intelligence, when action is backed by wisdom, there is no contest. Letting results speak is one of the most powerful principles of winning without unnecessary noise. In a world flooded with opinions, self-promotion, and endless declarations, results cut through everything. They don't argue, they don't need explanation, and they don't rely on charisma or performance. Results are evidence, they are final. While others are busy talking about what they plan to do or how great they believe they are, you let your actions deliver the truth. There is a kind of strength in staying silent while working, in resisting the urge to prove your worth with words. Talking is easy, it costs nothing, and most people are addicted to it. They feel pressure to constantly broadcast progress, to show the world every step, to seek approval at every milestone. But when you choose to say less and do more, you shift the focus from perception to reality. You stop chasing applause and start chasing mastery. Letting results speak is about patience. It's about playing the long game. It means being willing to endure the moments where no one is watching, no one is praising you, and no one understands what you're building. Most people quit in that space. They get discouraged by the lack of recognition. But you don't need a stage. You need purpose. And when that purpose drives you, you keep going, even when the room is silent. Because you know that one undeniable result is louder than 1,000 promises, there's also a brutal efficiency in results. They shut down arguments, they silence critics. You don't have to explain yourself when the proof is visible. Your transformation, your performance, your success, those things speak in a language everyone understands, and it's a language no one can fake. You may not always win the debate, but when you win the outcome, the debate becomes irrelevant. No one argues with results. They either respect them or try to ignore them, but they can't deny them. Letting results speak also protects your energy. When you're not constantly trying to convince others of your worth, you have more space to actually improve. You stop wasting time defending yourself, and you use that time to sharpen your craft. You stay focused, intentional, and grounded. And because you're not distracted by noise, you can work in peace, move with purpose, and operate at a higher level than those who are constantly chasing attention. What's most threatening about a person who lets results speak is that they become unpredictable. They don't announce their next move. They don't hint at their progress. They just appear, fully formed, already ahead. While others were talking, they were building. While others were performing, they were preparing. And when they arrive complete. That level of discipline and control creates shock. It catches people off guard. It creates a presence that doesn't require explanation. This mindset also creates a deep internal confidence. When you trust your results to speak for you, you don't need constant validation. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop rushing to prove something. You know what you're doing, and more importantly, you know why. That internal fire, fueled by purpose, not praise, burns longer and stronger than anything built on approval. People will notice, they always do. The growth becomes too real to ignore. The skill becomes too sharp to compete with. The performance becomes too consistent to question. But by then, it's too late for your enemies to catch up. They wasted time speaking. You spent that time working. Letting results speak isn't about being humble or passive. It's about being precise. It's about being strategic. And in the end, it's about winning in a way that no one can deny, no matter how loud they get. Winning without warning is the most elegant form of domination. It's not about theatrics, intimidation, or making noise before a move. It's about rising in silence and executing with such precision that by the time your enemies realize what happened, it's already over. No threats were made, no signs were given, just calm preparation followed by undeniable action. That kind of win doesn't just defeat, it humbles. It sends a message that echoes louder than any declaration. You never needed to announce your power. You just became it. Most people telegraph their moves. They brag, hint, and show their hands before the game even starts. They chase recognition, hoping their words will intimidate or distract. But the more noise someone makes, the easier they are to read, and the easier they are to counter. Winning without warning means refusing to let anyone see the blueprint. You don't give away your strategy, your progress, or your intent. You simply keep building, keep sharpening, keep evolving in silence. This way of moving demands discipline. It means resisting the ego's desire to be seen during the climb. It means embracing obscurity for as long as necessary. That's where the real work happens, in the shadows, out of view, with no applause and no distraction. When you don't seek validation during your process, you gain something more valuable, focus, and with focus, you create something unshakable. Your enemies expect signs of progress. They expect noise, effort, signals of intent. When they don't see those things, they assume you're inactive. They assume you've lost interest or fallen behind. That's their mistake, because while they rest or celebrate too early, you're preparing a win they'll never see coming. You're working in silence while they get comfortable, and comfort breeds weakness. They won't notice how far ahead you are until the gap is irreversible. Winning without warning also introduces fear. Not loud fear, but quiet, unsettling doubt. Once someone is caught off guard by your sudden excellence, they start to question what else they've missed. If you improved this much without them noticing, what else are you capable of? If you moved this far without noise, how much further can you go? That kind of fear lingers. It erodes their confidence and makes them cautious, even when you're not doing anything. You've planted uncertainty, and that is power. To win without warning, you must be patient. You must trust the process even when no one else does. You must understand that timing is everything, and the moment you strike should feel like inevitability, not coincidence. All the small, disciplined choices you made in the dark, early mornings, extra reps, deep study, relentless refinement, they all lead to a single, unstoppable move, one that doesn't require explanation, only execution. This approach doesn't just apply to competition or enemies, it applies to life. You don't need to announce every idea. You don't need to prove anything in advance. You let your work speak when it's time. You show your growth through results, not reminders. You deliver impact, not intent. That way, everything you do carries more weight. Every action is meaningful because it wasn't expected. It was earned. When you win without warning, you change the entire narrative. You stop being part of the noise and become something others have to watch, not because you demanded it, but because you became impossible to ignore. And the beauty of it is that you never needed the spotlight. You were too busy building the kind of power that doesn't require one. Power doesn't always roar. The most devastating victories are often earned in silence, through discipline, control, strategy, and relentless action. You don't need to announce your intent to the world. You don't need to match the noise of your enemies or explain your every move. Instead, you build, you refine, you endure, And when the time comes, you let your results speak with a clarity that silence amplifies. Every step you take in quiet preparation brings you closer to a win no one sees coming, but no one can deny. That is the essence of true power, not in proving, not in performing, but in becoming undeniable without ever asking for permission.